What is up guys, Fi here, and today we're going to be doing our top 5 mid laners. The thing with mid laners before we even start is there are so many good ones right now. These are just literally the top 5 that I think are the best at carrying solo queue. So at number 5, the first one we're going to look at is going to be Kassadin. Now Kassadin comes in and out of the meta so much, but right now he's actually really strong. He's always got that great roaming with his ultimate. He has a really good mid to late game. He doesn't really need many items to win. In fact, really just Rod of Ages is enough to kill someone, and he snowballs really hard if he does get a lead. His Q and W change that happened a while ago that gives you the shield and now the bonus damage actually helps his lane phase quite a lot. His W gives him pretty good trade potential early, or it gives him CS potential under tower, and that shield helps him CS as well. With these two, his lane phase is actually a little bit stronger than it was before, and this is really dangerous for players against Kassadin because this is the phase you need to shut him down, and it's just simply more difficult to actually shut him down now. If he does get to the mid game and he's farmed pretty well, or he's got a couple of kills, then you know he's going to be a threat, and that's the reason he's number 5 on this list. Is no matter what the game, if he's ahead, he is going to do some damage. One of the biggest weaknesses that I haven't put on the right of this thing is that if his team is behind, it's very difficult for him to do anything because he has no wave clear, so he can't really stall the game out at all and help his team get back into it. He's also a short range assassin, which means he has to dive into the enemy team to do damage, and if he doesn't have the backup of a team to really do that, then he is going to struggle. The good thing about having this particular weakness is that there's something he can do about it. He can move to the different lanes, either top or bot, and he can get some kills because he's roaming so good. He can bypass wards, so even though he's really weak when his team gets behind, you can actually make sure that your team doesn't get that far behind because you can be feeding them kills and feeding them gold and snowballing the game. Okay, so this might be the one where some people think it's a little bit weird, and this is the one where I thought maybe I can put some other people in here instead, but honestly Katarina is just such a monster in solo queue, and that's what this list is all about. She scales really well with items, meaning she only needs a couple of items to do a ton of damage. She has the resets which can take over a team fight, and she only really needs farm to be strong. The easiest way to win solo queue is to win your lane and then move that advantage from your lane into the other lanes, and this is something Katarina does really well. If you get ahead, you can just rush a death cap and suddenly you're gonna one-shot everyone. Even with the removal of DFG, it's still possible. If you're not ahead but you're just farmed, then you can get a Zhonya's and you can jump into team fights, do a ton of damage, and then Zhonya's, and it means you're a really big threat to the enemy team, but there's nothing they can really do about it. Katarina takes a lot of skill to play, and she's one of the champions where you have to think as well as having mechanical skill. She requires both, which is actually pretty rare in a mid laner. The reason I say she needs both is because her kit requires a lot of mechanical skill with her resets and jumping between people, using your abilities in the correct order, but she also has a lot of knowledge attached with her, when to roam, when to push, when to actually dive into a team fight, because if you go in too early and enemies have saved their crowd control, then you're pretty much dead. One good thing with Kat is it's difficult to shut her down early because you can jump away, and once you do reach a point where you're pretty strong after level 6, you can either kill your opponent or push and just roam to another lane. With her resets especially, it means roaming bot lane is actually really effective because if you pick up a kill on one of them, then you can reset onto the other one and often pick up both of them, a tower, or maybe even a dragon afterwards as well. So our number 3 on this list is going to be Leblanc, and this one definitely would not be a surprise to you. She snowballs really hard, she has huge lane and kill pressure, she just literally one-shots anyone in the mid-game stage, and she's really hard to gank, which means she's really hard to shut down. Another good thing is she's really good at roaming, especially from a base or just even from the lane, because she can get to another lane so quickly. By the time the enemy laner has probably pinged that she's missing, you're already going to be there. The reason she isn't higher on this list is because it's really up to you to carry the game, and what I mean is when you get a lead on LeBlanc, you have to snowball that. You have to pick people and kill people over and over to push advantages because she's not really a team fighter and she's not very good late game either. Leblanc is one of these champions which really fits the cliche of she's easy to play but hard to master, because you can do her combos pretty simply, but knowing when to roam and when to actually kill people and how to enter team fights is something that's actually pretty difficult. I don't really know how much I can say on LeBlanc and why she's so good, because you go into any game and you don't ban her and you're going to find out. Even if LeBlanc doesn't actually end up killing her lane opponent, she'll basically get free farm, because if her opponent does step away from their tower, she is going to kill them, and that kind of pressure is something that you might not realize, but is actually really big in a game. So next up on this list is going to be Zed, and Zed is one of these champions who can just take over a game if he's good enough. He has really good roaming potential, a really strong mid game. He can one-shot carries pretty easily and escape after, which is rare for assassins. He has great split push and he can just juke really easily. The one downside to Zed is that he has a very high skill cap and he's harder to play as the game goes on. So in his mid game he spikes really high and he has a lot of damage and can really team fight well, but when you get to late game, team fighting becomes a lot more difficult. The reason I put Zed number 2 on this list is because if you are good with him, you can easily win a game pretty much by yourself. You'll get an advantage in lane by poking and then all-inning your opponent. They'll be forced to sit under their tower, otherwise you're going to ult them again. And that's the point where you just buy mobility boots, you start roaming bot or top, and you take kills from them, you take objectives, and you just snowball really hard. The advantage of having an AD mid is that it forces your enemy mid laners to buy differently. Normally they're going to have to rush that Zhonya's to counter you, which means they don't get the early CDR and ability power, and they're not actually going to output as much damage in team fights. The final thing to say about Zed is that if all else fails, you can just split push, and that's a really good tool in your kit to actually have. It's not something I necessarily recommend at lower elos because people don't really know how to play with it on their team, but especially as you get higher and if you aren't winning team fights, then you can create a lot of pressure with the indecision from the enemy team, whether they should stop you and send 2 people or whether they should just try and fight and end up diving and losing. So taking our number 1 spot is going to be Ahri, and I don't think any of you are going to be surprised with her 58% win rate or something ridiculous. And to put that into perspective, most good champions in the meta right now have around 50%. Ahri is going to get nerfed in the next couple of patches, but she is still going to be strong, and I just can't not put her first considering how strong she is right now. She should pretty much be picked or banned in every game. Her biggest reasons why she's pick or ban right now is because of her ridiculously strong lane phase, her strong team fight, she's impossible to gank with that Q speed boost, and she can 100 to 0 people all the time. Even with the reduction in her damage and the amplification taken off of her charm, she can easily deal with squishy champions, and it only really affects her when she's trying to kill tankier targets. The problems with Ahri and the reasons you shouldn't play her is if you aren't very good with skill shots, then Ahri's definitely not going to be your champion, and she is weak against tanky teams. Not only with the removal of DFG and her charm amplification, she struggles against tanks, but she just can't really get through the tanks anyway, so she's really not very effective in team fights against a really heavy front line. When you're playing Ahri, her roam potential is actually really good as well, and it's something that I really think you should add to your game if you haven't already got it from this video where I've kept saying roam, roam, roam. The easiest way to win a game from mid lane is to get an advantage in your lane and then snowball that advantage into another lane, and these champions are all very good at it, but Ahri probably takes the hat. The reason she's so good is because she can get to you from a whole screen away with her ultimate. So she roams down, you'll see her on a badly placed close ward and she'll just ult, flash, and she's probably got 2 charges left and she can easily mop up 1 kill if not 2. Okay, so let's talk about the underrated and the ones I kind of left off. And the 2 I left off are going to be Azir and they're going to be Nidalee. Now these 2 are really strong. Azir in the right hands is ridiculous and Nidalee is very high skill cap but very high impact as well. So Azir isn't on this list because he's very hard to play. Like, I have only seen one good Azir player and that's my friend Thor from my old team, and he's master tier now and he's the only one I can actually see who wins his lane and has a really strong impact on that champion. Nidalee on the other hand is just very difficult to play and she requires you to hit those spears as she always has, otherwise you're just not going to have any impact and your team are going to want to fight because it's solo queue, and that's not really the recipe for success. So finally, the underrated mid laner is going to be Malzahar. I really wanted to say Brand, and Brand is good as well, but Malzahar has been this sleeper OP champion for a long time now. He's got a very high win rate in solo queue and he has done for a couple of months now. He's a very high impact mid laner, he pushes, he has a lot of pressure, and he's very well all rounded. He's just not very popular because these assassins can hunt him down. So that wraps up my top 5 champions for mid lane in this patch, and obviously I said at the start there are loads of different good champions for the mid lane, so why don't you share your favourites down below and I'll join in the discussion a little bit as well, but I will see you next time.